My name is Father John Boyven, an associate pastor here at Holy Name Cathedral, and I am also the staff liaison to our Cathedral Parish Life Commission. Today, I welcome you to the Cathedral Rectory. We are here in room 201, by many accounts the nicest room in the rectory. This is where our parish council, our finance council, Wednesday night Bible study, and some of our commissions and committees meet each month. But today, I am here for the long-awaited reveal of our parish staff mystery contest. I begin with an apology that this has taken so much longer than our Parish Life Commission had intended, and I assume the responsibility for that. Several delays over the past few months kept pushing back this recording, so we thank you for your interest and for your patience. In the summer, as we were emerging from the pandemic lockdown, 15 of our cathedral staff members were willing to share a personal, most likely unknown fact about themselves to allow others to see another side of them. This was a contest to see how many times someone could correctly match the fact with the staff person. Of the 15 staff facts, the most accurate was 10, and the least was 0. So it turns out that our staff is more of a mystery than we thought. So let us begin. We will start with the last mystery fact and work our way to the first. Also, I would like to express a special thank you to Father Marek Smolka. He is not only our Director of Liturgy, but he is here today for this filming. Also, it became apparent that even though he did not submit a mystery fact, the fact that he is here is that mystery because obviously he has had two vocations, priesthood and film director. And so, in gratitude to the Parish Life Commission for allowing both of those vocations to take place today. Our staff members were asked maybe to submit a 2-paragraph backstory about each of their mystery facts. Starting from the bottom, number 15, I grew up in Bavaria and I have a dog. This was submitted by our Director of Music and our organist, David Jonies. He writes, I grew up in the pleasant town of Dengendorf in the foothills of the Bavarian forest, a mid-sized mountain range not to be confused with the Alps. David owns a dog named Joseph, a 4-year-old Dachshund Beagle mix. Our second mystery fact, I have been sober for 45 years and play a terrible banjo. This was submitted by our deacon, Dan Welter. Dan Welter writes, as a child of the 60s, Quigley South graduate 1967, Loyola graduate 1971, I was caught up in the folk music of that era, Peter, Paul, and Mary, the Weavers, Bob Dylan. They spoke to my heart and made my spirit soar. Through folk music, I was introduced to Irish folk music and to contemporary liturgical music by the St. Louis Jesuits and others. While I never played a musical instrument, I sang in coffee houses and parishes with many good friends who were excellent musicians. We still sing together, but not often. I was always fascinated by the sound of a well-played banjo, and have made several attempts to learn that instrument at the Old Town School of Folk Music, but something like fatherhood, lawyering, judging, deaconing was always a greater priority. As I attempt to survive my 72nd year on this planet, Playing the banjo remains on my bucket list, along with learning how to play chess. And again, if not in this life, maybe in the next. The next mystery fact: I met Dustin Hoffman and Emma Thompson at the specialty shop where I worked. Both were extremely friendly and gracious. This was submitted by our parish receptionist, Janet Shekel, a new grandmother. From 2000 to 2007, I had a part-time job at Tender Buttons on Rush Street. It was a wonderful, quaint little shop that only sold buttons from 30 cents to hundreds of dollars each. They were treasured by button collectors. Our store was in business for almost 20 years until Barney's of New York bought the whole block. Our original store is still in New York City since the 1960s. One afternoon in 2005, my co-worker and I were amazed to see Dustin Hoffman and Emma Thompson walk in. Of course, we recognized them immediately. Dustin walked right up to us and introduced himself and Emma to us. Both were so friendly and outgoing, and both had been to our New York store. I always liked these two professionals, but I was so touched by their warmth. Other celebrities have also come into our shop: John Malkovich, John Lithgow, Joan Cusack. But I will never forget my short but sweet experience with Hollywood royalty. Thank you, Janet. Our next mystery fact was one that many people had a great difficulty figuring out. The mystery fact is, I was Army ROTC Outstanding Cadet and perching rifler at my undergraduate college. This was submitted by our deacon, Michael Mccluskey. And this is a photograph of Deacon Mike from 1960 when he was in that college uniform. 60 years old, that photo. Michael Mccluskey was voted Outstanding Cadet of the Army ROTC at the University of Scranton. In the freshman and sophomore years, every one of the 300 to 400 students was required to take military training drills. Deacon Mike was a platoon leader, and his favorite phrase was, "I am not your pal, I am your platoon leader." Following graduation, he was planning to enter military service during the Vietnam era, but the colonel wanted him to pursue his PhD and return to teach at the military college. Deacon Mike did receive his PhD, but did not return to the military college. Deacon Mike was ordained in 1978, 42 years ago, and all of that ministry has been here at the cathedral. Our next mystery fact: I visited the Faroe Islands between Iceland and Scotland. This was submitted to us by Father Bill Westman, a member of the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate, who is also a member of the tribunal staff. The Faroe Islands, North Atlantic Archipelago, is located 200 miles north-northwest of Scotland and about halfway between Norway and Iceland. It is an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. The islands have a total area of about 540 square miles, with a population of 52,656 as of August 2020. My flight from Copenhagen had to land in the Shetland Islands until the weather improved in the Faroe Islands. The landing strip was between two mountain peaks, and one could see nearby the remains of an airliner that did not make it. According to the 2011 census, there were 33,018 Christians in the Faroe Islands, but only 270 were Catholic. When I was provincial superior of the central U.S. province, the oblates in Sweden, Denmark, and Greenland were part of the province. I was to establish the oblates in Norway. As provincial, part of my job was to visit them. One of our priests was assigned to the Faroe Islands. That is why I went. There were so few Catholics there, so he was chaplain also for the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary, about 15 sisters from various countries. I was told that when a couple realized they were expecting a baby, they would register their child so that the child would be able to be accepted into the school because of its fine reputation. Every day the oblate priest would translate the Mass into the Faroese and have the translation corrected by a local school teacher. Just last month, Father Westman celebrated his 91st birthday. He was ordained in 1956. This was another mystery fact that was very difficult for people to get accurate. When I was 4.5 years old, my mother enrolled me in the Donald Brasseria School of Dance in Chicago Heights. In the late 1940s, it was a popular thing to have children go to the dance school. I did tap. This, my friends, is Father Louis Camelli. He continues, I appeared in 2 segments of a dance recital at the auditorium of Washington School in Chicago Heights. The first segment was a Latin-based theme, and this is the costume he wore in that, and the second was a cowboy western. I like to tell people that I gave up a career on stage for the priesthood. Sadly, the truth is otherwise. Sometime shortly after the recital, I broke my arm, and that ended my budding career on stage. Who knows, maybe I'll retrieve it someday in retirement. So Father Camelli celebrates his 51st anniversary of ordination on Saturday, December 19th. Also to note, there is a photograph of Father Camelli in the country western tap dance recital costume, and I have seen that photo. And there's good news and there's bad news about that photo. The bad news first, you will never see it. The good news is that I've been paid a significant amount of money to make sure that you never see it. Moving on. Our next mystery fact, I ran the Chicago Marathon 17 years ago, my first and my last. This was submitted to us by Michelle Peltier. I moved to Chicago 18 years ago. I was going to turn 40 the next year. I wanted to mark my birthday not with a party, but doing something good for someone else, because I was filled with gratitude to be here. I was in a Potbelly and saw a sign that said, "Run a marathon, save a life." I took the pamphlet home and I read it. It was from the AIDS Foundation. I had known people at that time who had died from that terrible disease, so I decided to go to the introductory meeting, and once there, I signed up. I had one friend here at the time who said he would run with me, so we were charged with going to the lake on Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock to train. I went, he did not. They asked me to run a mile to see how fast I could go, which would determine what group I would be in according to my speed. I had run in high school. But afterwards, I thought I was going to die. I was put in the second to last group according to my pace. Once that was established, I needed to find a way home because I took a cab there. One of the women who was in my group asked me my name. I told her, and then asked if I could take a cab back home, and if she would show me how to do that. She said, "Where do you live?" I told her, and she said, "I will take you home." She did, and as we got to know each other on the ride, she wondered why I took a cab to the site. I told her I did not have a car. I left it in Kansas City. "Well," she said, "I'll just pick you up every Saturday and take you home." I asked if she was sure, and she said, "Of course." That began my journey of training to run 26.2 miles on behalf of the AIDS Foundation. It took me over 6 hours. I raised $5,000, and I made 3 friends who are now my family. We represent different races, different decades, and are there for each other whenever needed. We've been through so much together, and I love them so much. They are Jennifer, who's Chinese in her 40s, I, African American in my 50s, Mary Lynn, Caucasian in her 60s, Carmen, Puerto Rican in her 70s. They are the reason I was supposed to run, because God knew I needed a family here to watch over me, and I watch over them. Otherwise, I hated running that thing. The joy was in those women. Our next mystery fact: I completed the program at a school of cosmetology, but decided not to get my license. This was submitted to us by our controller, Patricia Palacios. Why I did not finish School of Cosmetology? Beautician was not what I wanted to be when I was in high school. I wanted to be a flight attendant. I wanted to travel and see the world. My parents thought differently. I did finish the course just because my parents wanted me to, but I did not take the state exam to be a licensed cosmetologist. It took me 10 years to get a Bachelor of Science in Accounting. I registered for the fall semester in 1997 and found out I was having my 3rd child in October of the same year, then a 4th child in 1999, and number 5 in 2001. I started working in a CPA firm in 2005. I did get to travel while working with them. I would go to Nogales, Mexico, where I was the lead auditor. Then, in 2006, I had major back surgery. I finished with school in May of 2008. All I wanted to do was finish school and move on. But one day in 2018, my husband asked me, "Patty, did you really finish school? Why haven't you picked up your diploma?" So one night I had a very bad dream. What? I did not finish school? So the next day I went to the university to pick up my diploma, and now it hangs proudly next to my husband's. The next mystery fact: my cousin played professional football and was a Super Bowl winner. This was submitted to us by a fellow associate pastor, Father Bill Vollmer. He writes, "Growing up in Chicago Heights near Vollmer Road, a main artery in the Heights area running from Harlem to Halsted, my brothers and I were asked an infinite number of times, 'Is Vollmer Road named for you and your family?' With this as a reference point in our lives, we made a pact that any time, anywhere, we heard or saw the name Vollmer, that person, product, or business instantly became a cousin and or one of our family holdings. So, for example, in Germany, there's both a Vollmer construction company and a Vollmer vineyard, from neither of which we receive any compensation. Sebastian Vollmer, a former offensive tackle for the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots, and Dana Vollmer, a U.S. Olympic gold medal winner in swimming, share our last name. So we refer to them as our cousins, whether or not there is a blood relation. We just like to have fun, a trait we inherited from our mom. Our next mystery fact: in high school, I was John Adams in 1776. In college, I was Don Quixote in The Man of La Mancha. Submitted to us by our Executive Director of Operations, Mark Geraci. John Adams, 1776, performed at Quigley North High School Seminary in 1973. This was the first non-equity production of 1776 in the U.S., with the rights acquired by our director and former rector of Holy Name Cathedral, the late Reverend Bob McLaughlin. Being Adams' height range himself, Father Bob envisioned the 5'6" John Adams as a part written for him. However, he had to cast a student, so I was chosen. Father Bob was my mentor in ministry for so many years, and my rector when he invited me to be the Dean of Students at the College Seminary in 1984. With Father Bill Moriarty and others, we are the founding members of the Reverend Robert E. McLaughlin Faith Foundation to honor Father Bob's memory and commitment to faith development for young people. To date, over 11 years, $1 million+ have been raised and distributed by this totally volunteer-driven foundation. Don Quixote, Man of La Mancha, 1977 at Niles College of Loyola University. After being cast in the first non-equity production of Godspell in 1975 at the College Seminary, I was cast as Don Quixote in senior year of 1977. Both productions played to packed houses and were great learning experiences for all involved, directed by another mentor and dear friend of mine, Mr. Charles Geraci, who was trained at the Goodman Theater and imbued in us a culture of dedication, hard work, and professionalism. Though many months ago, these experiences continue to form me in my ministry. Our next mystery fact: I worked at a 7-Eleven store during my seminary days. So my friends, does this face look familiar to you? Would you buy a Slurpee from him? This is our rector, Father Greg Sakowitz. I started working at a 7-Eleven store in June 1969 in Park Ridge. I was 16 years old and was blessed to begin a job to earn a few dollars every week. My starting pay, $1.25 an hour, and I was ecstatic. Spending money, paycheck, responsibility, opportunity to meet wonderful people. I also set a record for drinking Slurpees. Nothing more is needed to complete this story. The next mystery fact: I posed for a statue of St. Benedict, which is now in a northern Illinois monastery. So my friends, this is my mystery fact. In the summer of 1997, here at the cathedral, I presided at a 12:10 weekday Mass. Afterwards, a couple approached me, asking for a few minutes of my time. This married couple, they were sculptors, who met while they were students at the Art Institute of Chicago. They were commissioned by the Benedictine monks of Marmion Abbey in Aurora to sculpt a statue of their 6th century founder, St. Benedict, for their monastery. However, it was thought that it would be best not to have one of the monks pose for the statue. So Jeffrey Varilla and Anna Coe, the Coe-Varilla Guild, asked if I would consider it. But first, they would have to seek permission from the abbot, Vincent Bataille. When they approached the abbot for approval, I am told he smiled. They asked if he knew me. No, never met him. But Boyven, my last name, is his mother's family name. So one afternoon each month for 9 months, I went to the Coe-Varilla Guild and posed for the statue. The Benedictine motto of Ora et Labora, pray and work, was the motto of every seminary. Not work and pray, but pray first and then work. When I do it, it does make a difference. Just to note that there is another photo of this, and this one is what I look like, 750 pounds of clay. I danced in the annual Bon Odori parade as a child, dressed in a traditional kimono. Another dancer on our staff. This was submitted by Lori Doyle, our Director of Communications and Director of Pastoral Ministry. She grew up in California and was very much surrounded and enjoyed the Japanese culture. Our next mystery fact, I was the paper boy of the year. Back in 1967, when this young man was delivering newspapers and was thinking about joining the seminary, do you ever think he would have thought that he would end up not only as a priest, not only as a bishop, but as the cardinal of the Archdiocese of Chicago? The paper boy of the year of 1967 is Cardinal Blaise Cupich. He writes, for 7 days a week, 100 newspapers every day, the Omaha World Herald, I was honored to be the paper boy of the year. People would take me into their homes on very cold days to warm me up, often with hot chocolate. And then our final mystery fact. As a young priest, I and our teen club paid $75 for the Jackson 5 to play at our event. Submitted by Father Bill Moriarty. In 1968, I became in charge of the St. Thomas More Teen Club. It was either in the spring or the fall of that year that the officers of the club came to me to see whether a group called the Jackson 5 could come and play for the teens in our parish. The parish, as well as those who are outside of it. The group was part of the CYO Catholic Youth Organization, and the cost was $75. Needless to say, the cost was high at that time, and I had to get some help from parents, but we did manage to procure the money, and the group was set to come. I only remember a few things about that night, making sure that many of the men parishioners who were police officers patrolled both inside and outside of the school auditorium. Also, a record number of teens, 750 attended. All I remember about the band is that the older brothers and sisters, Janice being one of them, did most of the singing, most of the playing, and Michael, who had to be 7 or 8 years old at the time, he was doing different musical moves to the music. Needless to say, the evening was a big hit, and better for me, nothing was broken, no fighting, and the pastor was happy. Sorry, no pictures, just good memories. So perhaps you've been surprised by some of the mystery facts, who did what as part of their past and their tradition. And so we thank you for being part of this presentation. But this was a contest, and we promised a prize to the person who would identify all of them correctly. And the prize is this beautiful icon crucifix. But no one scored 100%. So the names of all of those who submitted ballots are in this very beautiful bowl, our Sherry Travis bowl. We use it for many parish life events. And in just a moment, I'm going to ask Father Marek to choose a name of the person who will receive this cross. Stir it up, and Father Marek. And the winner is Madeline Perales. So Madeline will be contacting you soon. You will be able to take this beautiful icon, crucifix, take it home, and provide it a good home. So in conclusion, on behalf of our Parish Life Commission, thank you for participating and for viewing. Over the years, Parish Life has brought you the summer coffees in the courtyard, French toast and pancake breakfasts, the pasta dinner before the night of the marathon, the fish, Mardi Gras, and Oktoberfests, movie night in the auditorium, and other fun community building events. Recently, PLC sponsored the online architecture tour of 3 Chicago churches. So watch the website or Father Greg's columns for future Parish Life events. Thank you. And Father Mark, that's a wrap.